So Ad Astra takes place in the near future, but it definitely takes place in a projection based off if our current society were to run out of resources or whatever and just have to like explore space and colonize space. And it's a fully like capitalist, bureaucratic space travel thing.
Yeah, like Subway on the Moon.
The moon is like a territory that's competed for. One of the best sequences in the film is a sort of space pirate shootout, you know, because it's a disputed territory.
Yeah, it's like Earth, you know, like these sheltered enclaves of consumerism, and then outside it, just a battle for resources and allocation, you know.
That's what it's all about,
like,
I guess.
Yeah,
you know?
And like this is represented really well. And yeah, as you said, that scene is... Well, I was writing these little notes before, I was like, it was a perfect sequence.
Nice.
For what it's trying to achieve. The sound is crazy, like super compressed. It's like a car chase, basically.
It reminded me of Mad Max Fury Road, I guess, in terms of the shooting, you know.
Yeah, super dynamic and like kinetic.
Yeah,
but also
taking place in a space, like a non-space.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
A desert space. But yeah, that's just one of many fantastic sequences.
Oh man, should we talk about more action sequences before we get into like the philosophical agenda or meat of the film?
Yeah. Let's describe the premise right now. Right.
Okay.
Brad Pitt plays the main character who's in pretty much every sequence.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I have no idea.
Yeah, fair enough. Doesn't matter.
He's man, you know.
Man. And his dad, who's like Man Senior, played by Tommy Lee Jones.
Old man, yeah.
Old man. Look at his life. He went into space in the past.
He's like a pioneering explorer of space who's gone to the furthest reaches of our solar system to try and discover intelligent life.
I'm still a bit salty that they took Pluto off the sort of official solar system.
Where is he? Neptune?
He's in Neptune, yeah.
Okay.
And they don't mention Uranus once in this.
Yeah,
film.
I mean, come on.
They just
it
happens to be like orbiting on the other side or whatever. Yeah, they could have got away with it as well from the tone, you know. The bit with Natasha Lyonne made me really creased from like American Pie, Russian Doll. She's in it in a pretty humorous "Welcome to Mars, sign this form" sequence, which I really liked. But like otherwise, the tone was pretty nicely maintained. I thought they could have said Uranus or Uranus, and I would have not even laughed. Anyway, he's a jaded astronaut. In the first sequence, he falls to Earth from like this crazy like space tower that's like, I don't know, a few miles
more than
into
that.
Space.
Like it's in like the ozone.
Yeah, okay.
It's up there.
Yeah. Something sphere.
You know, they're like alienated from Earth. So when he starts plummeting, it's insanely intense.
It is insanely intense. It also ethers the film Gravity within like the first 5 minutes, because that's just like the whole film is her falling, and that's just like the first 5 minutes of the film. Just want to shout out Felix Baumgartner. This sequence reminded me of this guy. He was like the Red Bull guy who did that, who fell from space, like just with a parachute.
What?
Yeah, you can watch that shit. It's on YouTube. I remember watching it live.
Right,
and then
well,
when
you can
he
find
landed,
that in the description.
And then when he landed, he said, "I wish Justin Bieber did that and I had cut his parachute before," or something.
What the fuck?
That was the first thing he said when he came back to Earth from landing from space. Anyway, so he falls like miles.
And this is the beginning of the film. You know he's the main character and he's not going to die right at the beginning, but it's still insanely intense.
He's going to be bare traumatized though.
Yeah.
I guess his defining characteristic, Brad Pitt's character, is that he's resilient and resistant to trauma or like mental affliction, and a lot of the film is about he has to do how many psych evaluations over the film? Probably like 20.
It's this mad like techno future where
mental health is important the same way it's important now, but it's been capitalized and exploited to the extent where like everyone has to do a psych evaluation. That is what a lot of this ponderous narration in the film, which people have compared to like the narration in the original Blade Runner, but I think it's explained and justified in this pretty upsetting, disturbing way by he's not talking to anyone. He's having to explain every disturbing thing that's happened in the film, sometimes ahead of time, sometimes after it's happened, and account for it to like superiors. And because otherwise the whole mission will be turned around and he's just going to be sent back to Earth because he's not stable mentally enough. And that's a huge concern, much like Midsummer. It's a film about the protagonist's mental health, and that is like not just a theme, but the driving plot thing about a lot of what is going on in the film, which I really appreciated and was one of my favourite things about this film.
Definitely. As you said, though, he also seems sort of unflappable. So these are like the moments of like catharsis where he can move away from that stoic mode of the like masculine colonialist and like reflect.
He still performs that role like very effectively throughout, and he is the lone colonialist for a lot of the film. He is the John Wayne, Gary Cooper style.
Man on a mission.
Yeah.
Like,
Huge mission.
Yeah.
A very important mission.
It's a quest film, you know? Like, that's the vibe.
Futurama was in my mind a couple of times, I think, because that show is probably just like quite scientifically advanced. So I think some of the like concepts in this film just happen to remind me of that, because they were probably both heavily written by like scientifically minded people.
Yeah, James Gray co-wrote this with someone.
Yeah, apparently
I'm
it was
not sure what the. I haven't really read too much into this. But.
I mean, he co-wrote it with Joseph Conrad, right? That's who he co-wrote it with. It's literally an adaptation.
When he reaches the outer rim, you know, and he finds his dad.
Finds his dad watching classic Hollywood movies in the wrong aspect ratio. Go
on. He's got these notepads. And, like, instead of, like, I found this hilarious when I was watching it. Rather than exterminate all the brutes, it's check alt data. Which I just thought was, like, such a, classic.
TJX6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is Conradian.
Conradian, Lenian, not Leninian. Although I guess there is a political dimension to this film. But definitely, like, Solaris is a touchstone as well. Maybe it's closer to the George Clooney Solaris than the Tarkovsky one.
Okay, what other things? Space Monkeys.
That sequence was so fire, and I couldn't tell. I think there's a thing because like this film was quite heavily interfered with. It was supposed to premiere at Cannes, and then that got shelved. They worked on it for a couple of months because this film has like $100 million budget. James Gray is like a classically like independent, like mid-budget, low-budget filmmaker. I guess he had a vision. But I mean, like, in the way that Lost City of Z feels like quite a pure film, I would argue. Quite a singular film. Even when there's the war sequence, that feels the same. But supposedly, Ad Astra, much like many classic Hollywood films, is an auteur film that arrives at auteur status through, like, collaboration with, like, studios and budgets and stuff like that. And I feel like when they step off and like, oh, we got to intercept a call from this Norwegian ship, and then you just hear like on the voiceover like, it's a biological research facility.
I didn't even clock that.
Definitely added in post-production. They should hopefully in the director's cut that line of dialogue isn't in there.
Did it just bait it out too much?
I was screaming. There was like 4 of us in the cinema, and I was like, what?
There weren't many people in my screening, but there were a couple of particularly egregious customers on this occasion. They chatted through non-stop. It was so raw, man.
What screening were you at, man? What cinema?
Okay.
What time? Call them out.
I'm going to call...
Come on, name names.
What was it? We ended up going to the Shepherd's Bush, like West 12 one.
Classic cinema?
Yeah, for sure. We've seen a lot of films there.
Saw Semi-Pro there.
Saw The Hateful Eight there, I seem to remember.
I saw The Departed there when I was 14.
Right. What the fuck? Yeah. Just these children chatting through the whole thing, man. It was so raw. They were like shining their torches.
Well, this film is not for children, is it?
No,
it's for fucking philosophers, mate.
I think, it has, much like The Souvenir, the only film you need to see this year.
Yeah.
This has been slightly divisive, as far as I can tell, between like critics and audiences.
Or audience been hating.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I guess like it is like the Terrence Malick Tree of Life, also starring Brad Pitt or whatever, a lot of heavy monologue and like very ambient soundtrack. They went the whole hog, got
but
Max
this
Richter
isn't like that, is it? This is an action film, or like a,
well, it has
obviously
a couple of action sequences, but
but I think it has enough to propel, your nonchalant teen through it.
It gave me everything what I want, but it's definitely more interesting than exciting, I think. Although it was sufficiently exciting, but it's probably my favorite film of the year. And it had a couple of like really exciting bits. It delivered on that level, but it delivered way more in terms of like having walked out of the cinema and thinking about like the experience, how it worked as a film, how it managed to be a satisfying film, but also like profound. Again, it's all about what space travel does to your mental health. There's an amazing sequence where he's going for 90 days between Mars and Neptune, and he's the only person there. And the editing, it takes on sort of like brackage dimension or something like that. It's crazy, incredibly trippy. There's a couple moments, like the monkey one, I was like, I'm literally enjoying this more than any viewing I've had of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
That's mad.
The transcendent sequences or whatever. But I'm pretty down. It was a more like formal, certainly more formal than Interstellar.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, it's a very similar film. Also pretty good. Also pretty like shocks, like wonderful or inspired.
I think I missed it in the cinema, and then I didn't.
I'm glad I saw this one in the cinema, especially if it's destined to be one of these films that kind of flops and then it becomes like actually legendary, which I feel like is probably going to happen. What else? I mean, this and
In
High
terms
Life,
of High Life, yeah.
they've been two of my favourite films of the year. Interesting and intriguing and like original films about space with good actors in it. I guess they're both like incredibly psychological. High Life is a bit more, well, it's a Claire Denis film, I guess.
I mean, maybe one of the criticisms that's been levelled at Ad Astra is that it's potentially quite a masculine film.
Definitely.
I mean, that's not something inherently bad. And I don't think its masculinity is toxic either. It's just...
He does kill a couple of women.
But they're
That's
just
all
like astronauts, you know.
Yeah, exactly. They're just Yankee bureaucrats.
Well, yeah, they are.
They are, yeah.
However, the framing device on Earth is like his relationship with his wife, you know, and I said like I felt like it was shot like a fragrance advert a lot of time. Like the narration like didn't help in that respect, but like this, you know, them like gliding through like sort of like almost like sort of slow, so stylized.
That's what Tree of Life is like as well, though, isn't it? You know, it's funny. Brad Pitt. I get you.
Do you think High Life is like a counterpoint in that respect?
I mean, it's also a psychological film. It's just a Claire Denis film. It's way more like
Juliette Binoche's character
bristly, physical
High Life
film.
is pretty next level.
Yeah, she's a witch. She's a witch.
It's actually a wild film.
Yeah, it's a wild film.
I mean, we'll probably talk about that properly at the end of the year.
I guess so.
When we do a roundup.
I'm not going to be forgetting about Ad Astra when it comes to that, though. I really did love it. I rate James Gray. I think as a big film, it ticked all the boxes. It was interesting, well acted, well made. And even if it was a big auteur film made on a studio budget, I feel like that isn't even a question when it comes to a lot of these like franchise films. This is a story, well told, that I've been thinking about since I watched it.
Yeah, it's an impactful film.
Definitely.
Really worth checking out.
Especially in the cinema.
Yeah, if you can see it in cinema.
Brad Astra.
Like, it's a spectacle, you know?
Definitely.
Lots of set pieces, and even the contemplative moments are shot in a way that invites viewing on a large scale. Anything else on that?
Max Richter.
Well, the music.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, a little bit.
Bit ambient.
No, I was going to say a little bit sentimental. Not that invasive, though, which... I mean, it's a very emotional story, so I don't think they over-egged it with the soundtrack at all.
I had a lot of criticisms about Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah,
especially about the style, the cinematography.
Is it radically different in that respect to the original, or more stylized?
I don't really care about the original either,
whatever.
but I felt like that was more pretentious. And even though this is obviously a pretentious film about existentialism or whatever, that was maybe more aggressive in terms of how it foists its views and aesthetics upon you than Ad Astra, which is maybe just a bit more naturally wonderful. That's kind of how I felt. I thought it was proper film. Proper haircuts, proper ambient tunes.
Yeah, and I had a proper cinema experience in that I had to tell some children off during and after the screening.
You're a proper geezer.
Yeah.
James Gray, proper geezer.
We'll see what
You're not
it does.
a fan.